As we begin this journey from leadership to visionary leadership, it's crucial to acknowledge the backdrop of the world we're leading in. We're in the midst of an AI revolution, and many leaders are looking to integrate cutting-edge technology into their organizations. But with that excitement often comes a fear of displacement and a question of how we can stay irreplaceable as leaders and as human beings. This is where our L.E.A.F framework shines. While AI can streamline tasks and transform workflows, it's the human skills listening deeply, encouraging genuine dialogue, articulating vision with clarity, and offering meaningful feedback that create a workplace where people feel truly connected and inspired. In this chapter, we'll explore how embracing both the technological advancements of today and the irreplaceable human qualities of leadership can set you apart. By developing these human-centric skills alongside your AI initiatives, you're not just leading a team, you're cultivating a culture where technology and humanity thrive together. This is how you become a leader who isn't just following trends, but setting a new standard, one where the human touch is your greatest asset. Chapter 2: Embracing the L.E.A.F framework, the research-backed human edge. In this chapter, we'll dive into the L.E.A.F framework and explore how each element, listening, encouraging dialogue, articulating clarity, and feedback, is supported by both solid research and real-world examples. As we navigate an AI-driven landscape, these human-centric skills become even more essential. Listening is grounded in research from organizational psychology that shows how active listening enhances trust and team cohesion. For instance, studies from Harvard Business Review highlight that leaders who practice empathetic listening see higher employee engagement. A real-world example is how a CEO at a tech startup implemented weekly listening sessions, leading to a more innovative and cohesive team culture. Encouraging dialogue is backed by communication theories showing that open, two-way communication leads to better problem solving and innovation. Take the example of a global retail company that introduced open forums for team discussions, resulting in a 20% increase in creative solutions and employee satisfaction. Articulating clarity is supported by leadership studies that emphasize how clear, transparent communication reduces uncertainty and aligns teams. For example, a manufacturing firm saw a significant drop in errors and a boost in productivity when leaders began using structured, clear messaging about company goals. Feedback, as shown in studies on continuous improvement, is essential for growth. Leaders at a healthcare organization implemented regular feedback loops, resulting in improved patient care and team morale. Action steps. This week, host an open forum meeting where team members can share ideas on a current project, ensuring that everyone has a chance to contribute. Implement a monthly idea box, physical or digital, where team members can submit suggestions or feedback anonymously. Chapter 5: Articulating clarity, communicating vision with confidence. In this chapter, we focus on the third element of the L.E.A.F framework, articulating clarity. As a leader, your ability to clearly communicate your vision is essential for aligning your team and driving collective action. When everyone understands the goals and direction, it reduces confusion and empowers each team member to contribute meaningfully. Addressing vulnerabilities and barriers. Articulating clarity can come with its own set of challenges. Leaders may worry that they need to have all the answers or that being too transparent might expose uncertainties. Some may fear that if they are too clear, they might limit flexibility or that their vision will be met with resistance. However, the reality is that clarity builds confidence. When you articulate your vision clearly, you create a shared understanding that guides your team even through uncertainty. Research-backed insights. Studies have shown that teams with leaders who communicate clearly are more productive and engaged. For instance, research from Harvard Business School highlights that clear communication is linked to better team performance and higher morale. Real-world examples. Consider the example of a nonprofit leader who transformed her organization by clearly articulating a new vision for community outreach. Initially, she was concerned about how the changes would be received, but her clear and transparent communication helped the team rally around the new goals. Practical implementation tips. To articulate clarity, start by defining your vision in simple, concise terms. Use storytelling or visual aids to make it more relatable and ensure that you revisit the vision regularly so it stays top of mind. Encourage questions and be open to feedback to make sure everyone is on the same page. Reflective questions. How can you simplify your vision to make it easy for everyone to understand? What parts of your vision do you feel most confident about, and where do you need more clarity yourself? How can you use storytelling to help your team connect emotionally with the vision? Action steps. Write down your core vision in 1 or 2 sentences and share it with your team in your next meeting. Invite your team to ask questions about the vision and discuss how each person's role contributes to the bigger picture. Chapter 6. Feedback: The Art of Constructive Conversations. In this chapter, we explore the final element of the L.E.A.F framework, feedback. Constructive feedback is the lifeblood of continuous improvement and growth. It's how leaders help their teams refine their skills and how teams learn to trust that their contributions are valued. When done well, feedback strengthens relationships and drives excellence. Addressing vulnerabilities and barriers. Providing feedback can feel intimidating for many leaders. They may worry about hurting someone's feelings or fear that the feedback will be taken the wrong way. Some leaders hesitate to give feedback because they're concerned about conflict or pushback. Yet, constructive feedback is not about criticism, it's about growth. When delivered with empathy and clarity, feedback becomes a tool for building trust and fostering a culture of excellence. Research-backed insights. Research has shown that teams that regularly exchange constructive feedback perform better and have higher levels of engagement. For example, studies from Gallup indicate that employees who receive regular, meaningful feedback are more likely to feel engaged and motivated. Real-world examples. A real-world example is a hospitality company that implemented regular feedback loops as part of their leadership culture. Initially, managers were hesitant, but over time, the practice led to improved customer service and higher staff morale. Employees appreciated the opportunity to receive guidance and felt more supported in their roles. Practical implementation tips. To give effective feedback, focus on being specific and balanced. Highlight what the person is doing well before addressing areas for improvement. Use I statements to express your perspective and make the feedback a two-way conversation by inviting their input. This turns feedback into a collaborative process rather than a one-sided critique. Reflective questions. How comfortable are you with giving and receiving feedback, and why? What strategies can you use to ensure your feedback is both constructive and empathetic? How can you create a culture where feedback is seen as a positive tool for growth rather than criticism? By grounding the L.E.A.F framework in research and illustrating it with real-world examples, you'll gain not just a set of skills, but a proven strategy for leading in a way that technology can't replicate. Chapter 3: The Power of Listening, Turning Vulnerability into Strength. Active listening is the first pillar of the L.E.A.F framework, and it's a powerful tool for any leader who wants to build a culture of trust and connection. When leaders truly listen, they demonstrate that they value their team's voices, creating an environment where people feel heard and empowered. Addressing vulnerabilities and barriers. However, embracing this kind of listening can feel vulnerable. Leaders may fear that by opening themselves up to honest feedback, they'll hear things that are difficult to process or that challenge their authority. Some might worry that truly listening could be seen as a weakness or that it might invite criticism they're not prepared to handle. But in reality, listening is an act of courage and a sign of strength. By facing these vulnerabilities, leaders build deeper trust and foster a more resilient team. Research-backed insights. Studies have shown that leaders who are perceived as good listeners are more effective and are trusted more by their teams. For instance, research from the Center for Creative Leadership found that companies with a culture of active listening saw improvements in employee satisfaction, innovation, and retention. Real-world examples. One real-world example is a tech startup CEO who began hosting monthly listening circles where employees could share their ideas and concerns. Initially, she worried about facing criticism, but she found that these sessions actually strengthened her team's trust and led to creative solutions that she hadn't considered before. Practical implementation tips. To start incorporating active listening into your leadership, set aside regular times for one-on-one meetings focused solely on listening. During these conversations, practice summarizing what you've heard and asking open-ended questions. This not only shows that you're engaged, but it also helps clarify understanding and demonstrates that you truly care about your team's input. Reflective questions. When have you felt most heard in your own career, and how did it impact your sense of value? What's one fear you have about listening more openly to your team, and how can you address it? How can you create a routine that encourages active listening in your daily interactions? Action steps. This week, schedule a 30-minute listening session with a team member where your main goal is simply to understand their perspective. After each important conversation, take a moment to summarize what you've heard and follow up with any clarifying questions. Chapter 4: Encouraging Dialogue, Creating a Culture of Open Communication. Now that we've explored the power of listening, we turn to the second element of the L.E.A.F framework, encouraging dialogue. This chapter focuses on how to foster a culture where open, two-way communication is not just welcomed, but celebrated. When leaders encourage dialogue, they create an environment where ideas can flow freely and innovation thrives. Addressing vulnerabilities and barriers. Just like with listening, encouraging dialogue can come with its own set of vulnerabilities. Some leaders may fear losing control of the conversation or worry that open dialogue might lead to conflict. Others might feel that encouraging everyone to speak up could slow down decision-making. Yet, It's important to recognize that fostering dialogue actually strengthens the team by allowing diverse perspectives to be heard and valued. Research-backed insights. Research in organizational behavior shows that teams with a culture of open dialogue are more innovative and adaptable. For example, a study by MIT found that companies encouraging open communication were better at problem solving and had higher employee morale. Real-world examples. Take the example of a large retail company that introduced open forums where employees at all levels could share their insights. Initially, leaders worried about managing differing opinions, but they soon found that these forums led to creative solutions and a more engaged workforce. Practical implementation tips. To encourage dialogue in your team, start by creating regular opportunities for open discussions. Set ground rules that emphasize respect and ensure that everyone has a chance to speak. Use techniques like round-robin discussions or anonymous idea submissions to make it easier for everyone to participate. Reflective questions. When have you seen open dialogue lead to a breakthrough in your team? What concerns do you have about encouraging more open communication, and how can you address them? How can you create a safe space for your team to share their ideas openly? Action steps. This week, offer specific positive feedback to at least one team member and then follow up with one area where they can grow. Invite your team to share feedback with you as well, creating a two-way dialogue that normalizes the process. Chapter 7. Integrating the L.E.A.F framework, leading with a collaborative edge. In this chapter, we bring together all the elements of the L.E.A.F framework: listening, encouraging dialogue, articulating clarity, and feedback, and explore how to integrate them into your everyday leadership practice. This is where the L.E.A. framework becomes a holistic approach that empowers you to lead with a collaborative edge and foster a culture of trust, innovation, and shared success. Real-world application. Let's consider a scenario. Imagine you're leading a tech startup that's navigating rapid growth. By applying the L.E.A.F framework, you start with active listening sessions to understand your team's concerns and ideas. You encourage open dialogue to foster a sense of psychological safety. Then you articulate a clear vision for the company's next phase, ensuring everyone knows the why behind the what. Finally, you establish regular feedback loops to celebrate wins and identify areas for growth. The ripple effect of integrated leadership. When these elements are integrated, the impact ripples through the organization. Teams become more engaged, innovation flourishes, and a culture of collaboration takes root. Leaders who practice this integrated approach often find that their teams are not only more productive, but also more resilient in the face of challenges. Reflective questions. How can you start integrating the L.E.A.F framework into your daily leadership practices? Which element of the framework do you feel most confident in, and which one might need more focus? How will you measure the impact of this framework on your team's collaboration and performance? Action steps. Choose one meeting this week to consciously apply all 4 elements of the L.E.A.F framework and observe the outcomes. Reflect with your team afterward on how these practices influence the discussion and dynamics, and gather their feedback on the process. Chapter 8. Sustaining Growth and Evolving the L.E.A.F Framework. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through the L.E.A.F framework, it's important to remember that leadership is a continuous process of growth and adaptation. The principles of listening, encouraging dialogue, articulating clarity, and providing feedback are not static. They evolve as you and your team evolve. Embedding continuous learning. To keep the L.E.A.F framework alive, it's essential to cultivate a mindset of continuous learning. Encourage your team to revisit these principles regularly and reflect on how they're being applied. Consider setting aside time for periodic check-ins where you and your team can discuss what's working well and where there's room for growth. Training opportunities with LaTania Michelle. As you integrate the L.E.A. framework into your leadership style, you might find value in additional training and support. That's where LaTania Michelle comes in. With her expertise in leadership development and collaborative communication, LaTania offers a range of training opportunities from workshops to personalized coaching sessions that can help you and your team deepen your understanding of the framework and apply it more effectively. Real-world evolution. Remember, the best frameworks evolve with experience. As you apply L.E.A.F, you might discover new insights that add depth to each element. Encourage your team to share their experiences and suggest adjustments that can make the framework even more relevant to your unique context. Reflective questions. How will you ensure that the principles of the L.E.A.F framework remain a consistent part of your leadership culture over time? What steps can you take to foster a culture of continuous learning and adaptation within your team? How might working with a leadership coach like LaTania Michelle enhance your ability to implement and evolve the framework? Action steps. Schedule a quarterly review of the L.E.A.F framework with your team to discuss what's working and identify any areas for refinement. Consider enrolling in a training session or workshop with LaTania Michelle to deepen your team's skills and strengthen your collaborative leadership approach.